once you get into the postseason, now you're working with teams that have never seen him, right? And most of the teams have seen him because he pitched at least twice every weekend, right? So, but in the teams that haven't seen him, you're not used to a guy throwing 75% off speed, and that's what he does. So it's very likely that he will continue that pace in the postseason because the first time facing Kevin Kopps is very tough for amateur hitters who don't have the Rolodex of at-bats. I remember in the big leagues, it took me, remember Johnson, it was almost every pitch break more, right? It takes you a while to go, okay, the fastball's not coming. Right. Like, you always think the fastball's coming. You got to get to a place as a hitter where you go, okay, the fastball's not coming. How do I navigate an at-bat where I'm sitting breaking ball from the first pitch to the last pitch? And most young hitters don't have the experience to actually execute. You don't believe it's going to happen. You keep sitting. He's going to throw me a one-on break, a fastball. Let's see a 2-1 fastball, but here comes his thinking he's coming. But that's what separates. The question is for me with him is, can he be as sharp after this workload that he's had? Can he be as sharp in the postseason that he was? And that's me for the head coaches is where, you try to save as much as you can along the way, so you hope that he is. And for Arkansas' sake, you hope that he is as sharp, but you got to wonder with the workload he has, can he be as good as he was? Jimmy Ramsey headed out to the Kentucky dugout. Kentucky bullpen probably took his own jug of water. 6'9". Because I'm going to tell you, for a guy that's racked up a lot of innings, a lot of pitches, you're just not as sharp at the inning for, say, the first third or first half. It's stuff, you're confident that you can still do it, but it's just not as that battery life starts the season on full, and that battery life begins to come back. Over the course of time, it'll come back. Nathan Hickey was hit by a pitch in the first, grounded out in the third. Let me just put a button on the Kopps conversation. Imagine this, boys. In Omaha, when you get a day off after every game, he's going to throw every game. And when he pitches, Arkansas wins. So you.
And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fire on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series.
Bryson, touchdown! Hunter Renfrow.
He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers.
Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online by our friends and yours. Got a little bit of back feed here, Darren. At Stokes Volkswagen. You can find us on the JB and Goldwater app. You can find them at StokesBW.com. The postseason has arrived for college baseball. as those conference tournaments have started all across the country. Of course, here in our neck of the woods, Hoover is underway. We're going to get you to the scoreboard in just a moment. We're also going to get you to Charlotte, where Clemson is in game one. They've got to win both of their games in this pool play in the ACC baseball tournament to have a crack at moving on and potentially moving on and into the NCAA tournament. We're going to speak with Derek Scott live from Hoover at 12:10. He, of course, is the voice of Gamecock baseball, so he's going to check in prior to his airtime, which is 1:15 Eastern this afternoon. He'll be on 30 minutes before their regular schedule to go. We also have Sapakoff at 1:05 today, and we have ESPN's Mike Morgan, who will be calling games in the ACC baseball tournament at 1:30. We'll get into the Koepka DeChambeau stuff. Make sure you follow us across all social media platforms at JB and Goldwater, at Sports Media JB, and at Darren Goldwater individually. And you can always text us at 843-321-8893. Again, make sure you head to jbandgoldwatershow.com and download the JB and Goldwater app. Before I get you in here, Darren, let me get everybody an update real quick on the scoreboard from Charlotte. 5-4 now. The Tigers and the Cardinals are in a slugfest. It was 5-2, but I believe a ball was left the yard up there. So a one-run game. Clemson, of course, swept Louisville earlier in the season, and they're going to need, again, to win this game and then beat Georgia Tech in pool play in a couple of days if they want to advance in the ACC tournament, which would get them to Saturday. So Clemson will play today, and then Clemson will play again tomorrow. And then if they win both of those games, they'll play again on Saturday, which is an interesting setup, as it always is, in the ACC. On the field right now in Hoover, it is Kentucky and it is Florida, and the Wildcats have been kind of struggling down the stretch. Of course, South Carolina swept them up in Lexington not too long ago. They are currently losing to the Gators 2-0 in that ball game, so you keep you updated on what's going on there. And in the Sun Belt, Coastal is all over Arkansas Little Rock. It is 11-0 in the bottom of the fifth inning in that ball game. Coastal, of course, is going to have to win that championship if they would like to advance into college baseball's postseason. With that being said, good afternoon, Darren Goldwater.
Well, first of all, we get that echo fixed?
Yeah, I was struggling, but I kept getting through it.
Good. I'm glad it's fixed now. And yeah, right. So we're at this point. This is a massive game, obviously, for Clemson. It's not even this game; it's the tournament. For the Gamecocks, what I found very interesting yesterday in the early release of the D1 baseball projections, Alabama among the first 5 out. Alabama's playing for a lot today against Carolina, and Carolina's playing to maybe host a regional. So this is no average opener in a conference tournament game for the Gamecocks.
No, it's not. And I heard something interesting earlier in the broadcast of the Wildcats and the Gators, and that was that South Carolina, let's say they lose today against Alabama. The large majority of us think, well, if they want to host, they're going to need to win this game and probably another one. By listening to Chris Burke and Ben McDonald, they're pretty in the know. I think folks should understand that. That's not maybe necessarily true. This might be one of those years where we go back 20 years, and because of the venue, it's 100% capacity. Carolina might be selected as a host, but as the 2 seed in their own ballpark. And it does bring up an interesting scenario, because I was looking at those D1 projections myself this morning. They were released yesterday, the D1 baseball postseason projections, and they had Carolina at ECU as a 2 seed, but they also had Charlotte in there as a 1 seed and a host. You have to now wonder, just hearing that. I did text somebody a little while ago. They said, I haven't heard that, but it wouldn't surprise me. And that's somebody in Columbia who would know. Or at least would know as much as anybody out there. I'll put it that way with his context. So it does. There's kind of an interesting twist to this ordeal. If you're the committee, you've picked 20. 19 of those are in play. Pittsburgh is not, unless they win the ACC championship, more than likely. So would you rather go to Columbia? 8,200 you can fit into a ballpark, a place that hosts a lot of regionals. They know the ins and outs of doing it. Or would you rather go to Gastonia, North Carolina, where Charlotte has put in their bid to host, which is significantly less. Darren, I think you maybe said 3,500 or something like that not too long ago. That's interesting. Yeah, Carolina maybe could still host, but as a 2 seed if they don't make their way through the SEC in Hoover.
We discussed that possibility a while back, right? I mean, just simply the fact that at the time it wasn't 100% capacity, but still, that the following is there, and the fan base is there, and the support would absolutely be there for a regional. So it's within the realm of possibility that they're a 2 seed and they host. If that happens, I would hope the number 1 seed is among the lowest of the number ones, like 15, 16, because that's a tremendous disadvantage for the number 1 team to go to Founders Park and what will likely be a sold-out regional.
Exactly. Yeah, you've got to balance it all out, right? I mean, I'm strictly a believer of the top 16 teams. I don't care where they are, who they are, how big their facilities are, how nice they are, whatever. Regional hosts are supposed to be the top 16 programs in the country. And if South Carolina is not a top 16, then they don't need to be a regional host. That's just the way that I believe it to be true. If 14 of the 16 are in the SEC, then 14 of the 16 in the SEC need to be regional hosts. If 14 of the 16 are in the SoCon, then 14 of the 16 need to be in the SoCon. I just feel like the 16 best teams should be hosting. Forget geography, forget facilities and all that junk. It's designed they restructured this specifically to make sure that the top 16 teams would get regionals. That's when they stopped doing this a long time ago. So because I don't know if people remember this or not, but Darren, I know you do, but the way it used to be is they would select these regional hosts before conference tournaments were played. And then they were having to send 1 seeds on the road. And it just didn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And so we're like, why don't you just maybe, I don't know, wait a week? Like, that's possible, right? And they realized, oh, yeah, I guess we can do that. So I'm just one of those guys. If all 16 sites are in the state of New York, because those are the top 16 teams in the country, whatever, everybody's going to have to go to New York and play. But there's some play in that, and we know that, in my opinion, means nothing to the boys in Indianapolis, pretty much like the rest of the country. So we will get Derek's thoughts on that. We'll certainly get Mike's thoughts on all of that coming up here in just a little bit as well. And if you want to be a part of our program, you can send us a message like our buddy Robbie just did from the upstate. He said, for a smaller example, North Greenville is a 4 seed this year, but we're hosting the regional for the Southeast because of our facilities. It's a weird year. And he's right. North Greenville and Landon Powell certainly are rocking and rolling in the upstate. All right. Again, Mike Morgan, Gene Sapakoff ahead. We've got plenty to recap with Gene on the PGA Championship, and we'll get into the Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau video from yesterday as well. But first, we'll head west, and that is to Hoover, where Derek Scott is getting ready for about an hour and 5 minutes from now. He'll hop on the air alongside Tommy Moody and get ready to bring you Gamecock baseball in the 2021 SEC tournament. Hey, Derek.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Well, we're doing just fine. I was just looking at the weather. Only going to be about 90 today in Birmingham. That's a win in itself.
Oh, it's already 90. So, yeah, I guess if that's a win, you can call it a win. But at least it's not raining. And we will live with some heat in exchange for clear skies. And that's what we have here. And it's already just a beautiful day. And it was as much of a haunted house as this place has been. Let me tell you, it was still nice to drive back up the hill and walk back in the gate and open up the windows here in the press box.
Absolutely. It's fun. We were talking to the usually very hungry and incredibly well-dressed Colin Taylor yesterday from Gamecock Central. And we were referencing, Derek, I think, when was it? Was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago in Hoover, that game that went to like 2 a.m? You remember that?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's been a few years now. But yeah, there have been a number of those over the years that have gone on. Tommy and I were talking about that earlier. The last time that South Carolina played Alabama here in Hoover was 2009. And that was Tommy and I on that broadcast. I was filling in, and that one we were here till about that time that night too. And the Gamecocks ended up winning late and being able to stay. Of course, those were the days of a double elimination 18 tournament. But it's kind of funny to think back. It's been that many years since we played the Tide in this stadium, and it was the one time South Carolina has beaten Alabama in Hoover.
Yeah, it's you have to wonder where Alabama is too coming into today's ball game. I mean, this is basically a home game for them. We understand that it's Hoover. So the crowd, luckily the game's actually in the middle of the day. It's not a nighttime Bama crowd, which is maybe working in Carolina's favor a little bit. So CJ Wines will get the ball for South Carolina. Bama's scuffled down the stretch, Derek. I think they've been banged up a little bit here and there, but they're playing for their postseason lives. We kind of know what their mentality is like. Hey, we got to win and we can get in. Where is South Carolina mentally coming off of that tough final series loss against the Vols on Saturday?
Well, I think the Gamecocks are in the location of basically we know where we stand. We don't have to worry about winning to get in. And if you get hot here and it helps your cause to host a regional, so be it. But with all the recent injuries that have piled up for the Gamecocks infield, I get the distinct impression Mark Kingston's not going to do anything to stress anyone out in terms of their physical condition, whether that be, his infielders or, for that matter, his pitchers coming back on short notice. And he's just not going to press that because, we don't even know what it would take here to get you over the hump to host, or if you still need to do anything to get over those. You just don't know what's in the mind of the committee members. We all have just tossing opinions back and forth in the press box on Friday and Saturday. I could tell none of us were in agreement with each other for the most part on where things stood. So you can't get all tangled up in that. You got to be thinking big picture. And unfortunately, for folks who wish the Gamecocks would typically perform better here, I don't think any of the previous teams have come over in the last decade have thought Hoover was the big picture. The NCAA tournament is. And Alabama's in the opposite position. They know they need a good Hoover for the big picture to even appear. They've got to win. Chris Stewart, their play-by-play guy, told me yesterday when I was on his show that he thinks they got to win 3 times minimum to have a chance to get into the field. So therefore, they are running their Friday night guy out here this afternoon.
That's right. Yeah. How do you say his last name, by the way? Is it Ross?
Yeah, it's Ross.
Okay, that's what I thought. Just not spelled like Ross. Tyler Ross, 6-4.
R-E-S, Ross. Ross.
Who'd have thunk it?
Almost.
6-4 with a 5.42 earned run average, 20 walks to 53 strikeouts today. You mentioned some of the injuries with South Carolina. I have not seen. I don't think he's been publicly released. I haven't seen a lineup yet today. Do you have any type of update on some of those guys that have been a little banged up for the Gamecocks?
Yeah, I think the lineup will be the same as what you saw Saturday. So the way it looks is no George and no Malone, but it looks like Wimmer's going to give it a go, and that the Michael Robinson, whatever issues he was having as far as sickness, illness at practice yesterday, seems to have cleared up enough that he'll be the starting shortstop again this afternoon.
Okay. Now, what about CJ Wines? I mean, he's a guy who's kind of come on late for South Carolina. How much have you looked at this matchup between him and Alabama this afternoon?
Well, I think with him, it really comes down to location. I mean, his stuff's certainly good enough to pitch in this league. And with obviously this big ballpark, you can be aggressive. You can challenge hitters. He's just got to, avoid the walks. And, for so many pitchers on this team and in this league, really, that's the scenario. But when you look at what he's done so far, 9 1/3 innings of one-hit baseball, I think you'll take that. But the other side of that is there are 9 walks in that 9 1/3 inning. And you can't have that. So there's got to be some kind of improvement in that line, even if it means, getting hit a little bit here and there. Because it just feels like, those 390s tend to pain you more than even a guy earning it with a base hit. Make your defense do some work. And I think that's important for him. Obviously, you don't know what the rope is for him as far as how long he'll be asked to be in there, or they'll even look to have him in there. But I definitely think a good start would be very helpful for this team.
His last start last week, 1 week ago today, App State, 4 innings, 6 strikeouts and a pair of walks. He threw 60 pitches in those 4 innings. That was his best performance of the year, Derek. So maybe he's trending in the right direction, certainly. This is always interesting, right? That, okay, well, how do we manage the rotation? How do we manage the bullpen? It's the tournament. Obviously, this one here, if they keep winning, they're going to play all the way till Sunday. So they're going to have to cycle guys through. But their bullpen has been the strength. I mean, they've got guys, Derek. They've had them all year long. So what have you learned about this squad and this staff that maybe gives you some confidence that, hey, the next couple of days could be pretty good to South Carolina, even though they're going to see, once again, some of the best teams in the country?
Well, I think that the one thing with his bullpen is you've seen guys who have had some really good outings, but maybe haven't done it consistently. And, I look at a couple guys in particular that may be called upon today. When you think about a guy like, for South Carolina, the left-hander Gil Reese, he was so good on Thursday against Tennessee, and he's done that a couple times. He did it at Ole Miss. But the situation there is when he's coming in both those instances, there's already a pretty significant deficit, and there's not a ton of pressure. If you need him to get those same kind of outs when you're in a game, when you're in the postseason, is he up to that? And he's not the only one that really falls into that category that as far as being able to get it done in situations that don't have as much leverage attached to them. And that's going to be key, is some of those guys that may be asked to go out and play a role. And then, you wonder about a guy like Andrew Peters, who just has not had the same stuff down the stretch that he had earlier in the year. He was, beyond Brett Carey, your second best option, but his velocity has been down the last few times out, and as a result, he's getting hit. So you've got to, you don't know what you can get from him here in Hoover until he gets out there and gives it a go. So while you feel good about the bullpen depth, there are still some guys that, with Brett Carey now a starter, that we have to see how they manage an opportunity here.
By the way, quick update: 2-1 Florida now leading Kentucky over in Hoover. I think the Gators are headed to the plate. If they win,
by the way, but before you go any further on that, Kentucky's got to be pulling its collective Wildcat hair out. They've got 7 hits in 5 innings. They must have stranded. Let's see if I can get a quick peek here. They've stranded 8 runners already through 5 innings. They've had so many opportunities and started. The game began with a hit by pitch and a double, and they didn't get either of those runners home. And it's just been like that every inning, and they just did it again. They had a pop up behind home plate that the catcher dropped, and you thought, if they get another swing on the house, they'll make Florida pay, but it didn't happen. So here they sit, still trailing by 1. And this game, I think, carries importance on some level to Gamecock fans, because I still feel like Florida and South Carolina are a heck of a lot more evenly matched in terms of potential regional hosts than maybe some of the national media want to acknowledge. And you really, if that's the case, you need to go further than Florida. You either need to have a few more wins than the Gators have, or you need to beat them head to head. And so if you're a Gamecock fan, you're most assuredly rooting for Kentucky in this contest.
Well, that's a very interesting point, Derek, because you're right. I mean, Florida finished 1 game ahead of Carolina in the standings, but of course Carolina swept them earlier in the season.
Well, and that's all true, but more importantly, it's just astounding to me that I haven't heard anybody dig a little deeper and see this. The comparable schedules in the conference are not even close. I mean, Florida. You look at the record of the teams Florida played from the West Division compared to the record of the teams South Carolina played. I'll guarantee it's a lot more than 1 game's difference. And I think if you're digging deep on a committee, if you're doing your work on the committee, paying attention to more of those things, somebody's pointing that out in the room and saying, wait a minute here, we've got a 3-game head-to-head sweep. We've got a better RPI, and you've only got 1 game's difference in the conference standings, but a much more difficult strength of schedule. Wait a minute, why are we assuming Florida's got the edge here? So I hope that that's the way people are looking, that they're really doing some homework and getting a closer look at that. But at the same time, if you can have a better performance in Hoover than they do, maybe you don't even have to worry about that part of the equation.
Have you asked any of the players about the regional host possibilities? Has that been any part of those conversations? Are they thinking about it? I mean, what's their attitude now compared to, say, at the beginning of the year when it was, hey man, backs against the wall, doesn't matter, carefree, always loose, always able to come back? Where are they right now?
Yeah, I can't tell you that I have. I mean, when I see the guys, more often than not, in the hotel, you're just trying to keep it light.
Yeah.
So I have not talked to them, but I would certainly imagine that how much this group has embraced playing at home this year and talked about their love of the fans, the Rowdy Roosters, and so forth. So you absolutely know they see the importance in that and would like to find a way to make that happen. I don't think for a moment that that's lost on them, and they may not be reading D1 baseball every day like you or I, but they're aware of the situation. I'm quite confident they are.
To Derek's point a moment ago, the 2 of the teams that Florida drew from the West this year, South Carolina did not, and they were the 2 worst teams in the West this year, Texas A&M and Auburn. Of course, Arkansas and Ole Miss were shared. By the way, Florida went 2-4 against both Arkansas and Ole Miss. So just a quick note there as far as their schedule goes. Where did those 17 wins come from? 2 of those 17 against those two programs. Derek, Carolina can't win without Wes Clark and without Brady Allen. And the both of them had a couple of big knocks this past weekend. Wes has seemingly come on a little bit here the last couple of the weeks of the season in the SEC. It's nice to see Brady doing what Brady does. He's a hell of a player, and we knew he was in a slump, but we also knew he'd be out of it at some point in time. But everybody knows how the park plays in Hoover. It's not small. I mean, it can be a desert out there at times. Carolina's game doesn't exactly mesh up well with that, although they've made some adjustments the last couple of weeks. It's hard to ask what do we expect to see offensively because you just never know with this club, but they haven't been scared to bunt and things like that of late. Have you seen anything the last couple of weeks that gives you some hope for this offense to string some runs together? That's really all they need.
Yeah, I have. I mean, it's not consistent, but what we saw at Kentucky, I thought was very encouraging. And while you didn't see that replicated a lot against Tennessee, there are times where you grasp it, whether it is, the balls that are being hit hard the opposite way that don't end up amounting to anything like we saw from Burgess in the 8th inning on Saturday, or that opposite field double from Heinrich. There are guys that understand what has to be done and the adjustments that when they've had success that they have made, and trying to stick with it's the key. And you mentioned Wes. I think for Wes, a lot of it comes down to how many walks are you seeing him draw? Because as much as he wants to drive the baseball, ultimately the goal is to, keep the line moving. And if teams are going to pitch him as carefully as they have been, he's got to have the plate discipline to lay off those breaking balls. More often than not, they don't land for strikes, and he ends up on base. And that's as important sometimes. I know people want to see him swinging the bat and driving the baseball, but at the same time, it doesn't factor into success if it's ending up in the form of a strikeout. And when we look at conference play alone, 30 games now, he's only hitting 181, and he's got 45 strikeouts. So you really need to see more of that approach where he can find a way on base and not worry so much about, driving the baseball, because it's great when he does. But if that's the focus, then as you said, between the size of this ballpark and the ability of other teams to know the book on how to pitch him, it's going to be hard for him to run into one.
6-6, by the way, going into the fourth. Clemson and Louisville.
I'll give you an update on that. It is now 8-6 Clemson. A Tedesco 2-run shot that scores the brother of former Penn State quarterback Christian Hackenberg.
Wow. Holy moly. Hey, Derek, let's hope that you don't have to call some 20-run ball game today. I know y'all like to get in there and out of there. Let me ask you this final one. We'll let you go, brother. You got to get going here in a little bit. If Carolina can get through it today against the Tide, have there been any conversations about how they'll set up the rotation moving forward? They did play, obviously, on Thursday last week. Would we maybe start to look at seeing Brett Carey tomorrow?
Well,
excuse me, Brandon Jordan.
I certainly think that by the time you get to regionals, that is something that will be considered. But no, I don't think here in Hoover they would consider bumping him all the way from Friday to Wednesday, considering they just had to move him from Saturday to Friday, the previous week. I don't think they, think that would be such a good idea at all. So no, I don't think that'll be part of the plan. To me, the bigger question is, knowing how protective Skylar Meade has been of his arms, would he, plan on running Brandon Jordan out there tomorrow? Or if understanding that, okay, we know we're in the double elimination phase of this thing now, so we're not on death's door, so to speak, does he just go completely protective and have another day of not using his weekend guys early? I would tend to lean towards, Jordan tomorrow if that's where it goes. But that's a lot of that's just me speculating, because the coaches have not really talked any publicly to me or Tommy or anyone to this point about what those plans will look like.
1:15 this afternoon. Derek Scott, Tommy Moody, they will be on the air. Gamecock Baseball, part of the Learfield IMG Sports Network. Of course, wherever you are locally, you can listen. You can always listen to it on the Gamecocks app as well. Derek, we hope you take us home to a W today, my friend. Enjoy Hoover for as long as they'll allow you. I hope it's all the way through Sunday and maybe we can catch up with you
Yeah,
next
I'd
week.
be okay with that. Although, unlike Taylor, I didn't remember to pack my golf clubs. Well, I just didn't. Honestly, I didn't have room in the vehicle, so that's an L that I'm taking. Sounds like he's on top of this stuff, but he's proving to be a lot more savvy than his tall, goofy look ever gave us the impression he would be.
Well, I'm excited to cut it on here once we get off the air today, my friend. Go get him. Thank you for your time.
All right, guys. Take care.
Derek Scott, the voice of Gamecock baseball, and hopefully it's a good day. I did misspeak. I didn't mean to ask him about Brandon Jordan tomorrow starting the rotation, but I'm glad he clarified that anyways, because I think that has been a very popular question. And we saw Brandon last week get through a couple of innings and then struggle against the Vols. And then, of course, for the second straight week, we see Brett Carey come out and just dominate. And so I think a lot of folks have thought, well, man, it'd be nice to get off to a good start. Maybe even though they won the game against Kentucky 2 weekends ago, is it time to move Brett up? So at the end of the day, he answered one of the questions that needed to be answered anyways. I'm with him. I think depending on how the week kind of goes, and if it goes the way we kind of all think it might go, that they don't advance all the way into Sunday or something like that. Heck, even if they do, you could start regionals on a Saturday. You don't know how the schedule is going to play out. I got a gut feeling that Brett Carey is going to end up moved into that game one role, that ace role, because you know how it is, Darren. I mean, maybe he's comfortable there in game two right now. I don't know. But you really can't get behind the 8 ball. You got to throw your dude against everybody's dude. And I know that in a regional, you'd be a 1-4, so you'd like to think you could get through that with somebody else. But that's not the way it works out in a super regional. You got to have your dude on Friday. So that'll be really interesting for their staff moving forward.
We talked to Colin Kaler about that. I mean, I asked him that directly when the move was made to Saturday for Carey. Do you think it was looking all the way down the line towards the NCAA tournament with the thought that, hey, you might be 1-4, you might be 2-3, but if you are 1-4, then you can get away with not throwing Carey, and then you do have Carey coming back against 2 or 3 in the next game. So I think it'll all depend on matchups right there. I mean, it'll depend on who they're going to see in that first game, whether it's a 2-3 or whether it's a 1-4. If they think that they're confident in an SEC Friday night guy going up against whoever they've got, and then you got Brett Carey coming back for game 2, they could feel pretty confident about that. So I think it'll all be determined by who they're going to play.
You know what? I actually really do agree with that. I mean, there's some years your rotation is what it is, and you just let them run out there. You run your horses the way that you've run them throughout the year. But you're right. I mean, when you've had to make adjustments down the stretch here, if you are in some type of 1-4 scenario in a regional and you go up against somebody who's Friday guy, I mean, they're going to throw their ace. The 4 has to throw their ace. They don't have any choice. So if he's a guy that you feel very comfortable with your offense, yeah, you probably don't switch it around.
Yep.
But first and foremost, they're going to have to play today at 2:00 against Alabama, and we'll see what Waynes does for the Gamecocks against the Tide's quote-unquote ace, although he has had his struggles this year, certainly. Tyler Ross, although it's spelled R-A-S. He is a junior righty who is 6-4 with a 5.5 ERA, 20 walks, and 53 strikeouts. What the hell is going on in Charlotte? Balls are flying out left and right. I believe they're only in the 4th inning.
Bottom 4, just got to bottom 4. I haven't seen an update past 8-6, the Tedesco home run, but I'm updating it now. But they're into the bottom 4. The 2-run shot in the top half has Clemson up 8-6 right now.
A couple of other quick updates as well. 3-1 Florida on top of Kentucky. They also have the bases loaded. So looking to break this one open in Hoover. And right now, currently in the Sun Belt, Coastal, of course, entered as the 6th seed from the East. They're playing in Montgomery, Alabama, not too far away from Hoover. Coastal Carolina in the 7th leads Little Rock 14-0. It is a blowout of all sorts in the 2021 SBC Baseball Championship. So
prayers to everyone covering these tournaments. If you're getting games like this to start the day, good luck. It's going to be long.
Yeah, it is. Wow, what a day. All right, we will hit a quick timeout. We're going to get to some of the golf. We have Gene Sapakoff at 1:05 this afternoon, And, of course, mic'd up with Mike Morgan, generally at 12:30, moved to 1:30 this afternoon. Mike is headed to Charlotte to call the ACC Baseball Championship, so plenty to touch on there. Been a fun show. We'll continue to be right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with zero down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest, easiest way to sell your car and get the most money for your trade. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump? Strike two! If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per 1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to BCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right. Local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All three locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, now featuring once again local caught hand-breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating taps all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and awesome.
You're welcome, Patrick. 12:34 on a Tuesday afternoon. Make it a DB's Cheesesteaks Tuesday afternoon. Watch baseball all day long with DB's Cheesesteaks, dbscheesesteaks.com. Look at the menu. Go ahead. I dare you. I dare you to look at that menu and try to not order one, because you will. They'll deliver it right to your doorstep as well. Any available delivery app in your area, they've got DB's Cheesesteaks on it. Or if you're going to be headed through West Ashley and you want to stop in Avondale, grab one and head home and get ready to go. Watching maybe you're a Carolina fan or a Bama fan or a Georgia LSU fan for supper time tonight. They're going to go at 5:30, game 3 of the SEC tournament. Ole Miss and Auburn, the 5-12 matchup. That's tonight at 9 o'clock. Over in the ACC, remember Clemson and Louisville, they're on the field now, and balls are leaving the yard left and right. But that is game 1 of pool play. Vautech and Virginia, a little rivalry matchup at 3 o'clock today. 12-8 there, and then Pittsburgh and North Carolina, the nightcap at 7. And then in pool play in the Sun Belt, Coastal is on the field. Troy and App State this afternoon. ULM and Georgia State, App State, Texas State today. So that is the baseball being played for all the in-state boys. The CAA is set to go tomorrow. Charleston is on the field at noon versus Towson, 4-5 matchup. Thursday is when the Big South Baseball Championship will get started up in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Top-seeded Campbell and Presbyterian at 3 o'clock. Go Blue Hose.
Never punt.
Never punt. Never bunt baseball either. Never bunt. Never punt and never bunt.
There you go.
That's a new T-shirt coming to a town near you. And then USC Upstate and Gardner Webb. Boy, that's going to be a good one at 7 o'clock tomorrow night in the Big South. Upstate looking for a postseason berth. But SoCon, they will get started on Thursday as well. Top-seeded Wofford and 4th-seeded Western, 2nd-seeded Samford, and 3rd-seeded Mercer. And I'll be honest with you, flip a coin for who's going to come out of the SoCon this year, because all 4 of those teams are pretty comparable when you look at it on paper. All right, 843-321-8893. You can always get a hold of us via Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever it may be. Send us a message. We'll pop it up on the screen just like Adam and Will and Tyler and all these guys have been doing today. We certainly appreciate that. Hopefully we're a little bit of a pregame show for you headed into some afternoon play on the Diamond. It is 8-8.
Yep.
I
that's a Metzinger 2-run homer in the bottom half to answer the Tedesco 2-run homer, and that they're in the fourth. They got 16 runs on the board.
This is unbelievable. That is the 7th combined homer of the day between Louisville and Clemson. Again, the Tigers have to win both games in order, because they're the lowest seed in pool play. They are the 11 seed. Georgia Tech the 2, Louisville the 7. Remember, they swept Louisville and Georgia Tech swept them in Pool B. And so they have to win both of those games to be able to advance to Saturday's semifinals. And I mean, let's be honest, Darren. I mean, they got to win both of those games to play in the postseason anyways, because they're 2 games under 500.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're must wins. Louisville's in the postseason, but where they fall, we nobody really knows at this point in time. So, wow, unbelievable. That is just really unbelievable.
Yeah.
I just keep laughing at this Brooks Koepka Bryson DeChambeau thing because, I wish we could just break form and just let them fight. If they really don't like each other that much, just let them fight. If you're the PGA, think about this for a second. Just break whatever rule you have in place. Give them some boxing gloves. Set up a little ring somewhere outside of the next tournament and let them beat the crap out of each other. Who the hell wouldn't watch that?
They don't like each other at all. So what went around yesterday is the latest in a long line, and I hadn't seen something until earlier today. I saw it. Was it Zaire Golf on Instagram? They have a lot of fun stuff in a practice round. So it was before the viral video. This was after the second round, but in a practice round at the PGA, Bryson rips a drive, and in the gallery right around him, someone says, something like, go get it, Brooksy, or great shot, Brooksy. And immediately after the shot, Bryson turns around and goes, whoever called me Brooks needs to get out of here. I mean, this is, remember Bryson took a shot at Brooks. Brooks answered with, you've never won a major. Now Bryson has. And look, you may get your wish. Once they're done playing golf, like celebrity boxing is becoming a big thing. Maybe. I'd watch. If they're both big dudes, it'd be a fight.
Not to interrupt the flow of this conversation, but another ball has left the yard, and it is now 9-8 Louisville. Henry Davis with a solo shot. That is 8 combined home runs today in 4 innings.
Unbelievable. I mean, they're just knocking them all over the yard, back and forth and back and forth. Clemson got it going at the very beginning of the game when this whole thing started. So now it's Louisville with a 2-run shot in the bottom of the 4th, and Davis with the second home run here in the bottom half of the 4th inning. All right, so what I'm going to do is Jamie reconnects. If you haven't seen here we go. We got him back.
That's my fault, by the way. I clicked the wrong button.
I was going to lead right into the video if you just hadn't seen it. Simply, if we're talking about it, I'm sure most people have seen it by this point. But number one, I'll say this. The video never should have gotten out. It never should have leaked, but it did. And I don't know what the impact of that's going to be. But if you didn't see the Koepka, should we say reaction?
Yeah.
To Bryson DeChambeau? Here it is.
Golf course was asking a lot from you today, Brooks. What were you able to do well and put up that nice number?
Just ball struck my way around this place. Didn't putt well, but I don't think many guys are going to putt well with this wind. It's very tough. I don't know what other guys have said. Or I just felt it difficult to read. Sometimes. I lost my train of thought. Yeah.
That was fun to put together.
Wasn't there? Take me back 20, 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't celebrity boxing a thing on MTV?
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Wasn't there like a like a cartoon celebrity boxing thing on MTV? Somebody knows. Somebody comment on this or call us.
Tim Frisbee points out maybe we can get him in the octagon. I'd pay as well, Tim. I don't know. I'll Google it though. But here's the thing with Koepka. We know you don't like each other, right? But for this to come out, and he even said at the end of that I cut off, I don't care if it gets out, whatever, do whatever you want with it. But after what he did say following the fourth round, then he didn't have to react, right? He could have just played it cool during his interview. Bryson wasn't talking to him. Bryson, if you pump up the volume, Bryson's talking about a shot he hit, a drive he hit somewhere is after the second round. He didn't have to do that. So, I mean, we've got 3 clear villains on the PGA Tour. I talked about Koepka yesterday. Bryson is teetering there, and Patrick Reed. So, in some ways, it's good for golf.
So, rank them then. Celebrity death match, by the way, Adam told us.
Nice. Would I rank? So, villain 1 for me would be, it would go Koepka, Reed, DeChambeau. I'd have DeChambeau as the third. The best of the 3. The worst of the 3 would be Koepka for me.
So, but have you always had him ranked like that, or that's changed because of Koepka after the tournament?
Yes. No, I have not. Patrick Reed's always been right around the bottom. I mean, but he just hasn't done anything to annoy everyone recently, in recent history. Bryson, to me, this week, I actually softened on him a little bit. And Brooks, I even pointed out, I thought he was reshaping his image well from he only wants to win majors and this callous type attitude. And then all of that came bubbling out again. So it's a very fluid thing. Right now, Koepka's at the bottom.
Do you think that was Brooks Koepka, like, truthfully, totally, he is just a total jerk? Or do you think there was maybe a part of it that was frustrated because he was right there in the final pairing? He's probably hurting a little bit after that long weekend, 4 rounds out there walking around on a bum knee. Thought he played well. Do you think there was some frustration that boiled over, or it's just Brooks Koepka?
Maybe. It makes a lot of sense. I'm sure the knee was bothering him. He had a whole team of people out there with him.
I mean, he looked totally disinterested in having to do that interview. I mean, he was just standing here with his head to the side. He didn't want to be there.
No, but that's the impression he gave most of the week, and oftentimes when he's in front of the media, which is one of the things that really rubs me and some other people the wrong way. So yeah, maybe he was hurting, and maybe Bryson didn't have to walk directly behind him. I mean, I'm not going to say that was the nicest move in the world either, when obviously he's taping an interview. But you didn't have to react. Like, you could have kept your cool very, very easily. It's not like he's a rookie at this media stuff. You just keep talking, let it go, and next time you see Bryson, either bring it up or don't.
Punch him in the face. Why don't we? No, don't do that. What if we do this? Like, everybody always wants to see the Tiger Phil with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady type golf. Why don't we do a Bryson and Brooks with whoever they choose?
My favorite tweet of the day, I think was from last night, was I'll try and figure out who it actually was to quote him correctly. But his point was, please, USGA, the Golf Association, put Koepka and Bryson together for the first 2 rounds of the U.S. Open next month, because they can do it. They have every power in the world to do that. Do that, because it would be fun.
I don't think they'll do it though.
I doubt it, but it'd be really good for ratings.
I think if Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau are smart, I mean, neither one of them is in jeopardy of like losing their career over this publicly or anything like that. They're financially set for the rest of their lives. So if they misstep somewhere, whatever, who cares? I think if they're smart, one of them needs to pick up the phone and call the other one and say, we need to continue to play this thing out, and let's find a way to make some revenue, make some money off of everybody being so obsessed with our personal rivalry. I don't like you and you don't like me, so let's use it to our advantage.
You make a very good point, but it seems to me they really, really don't like each other. And neither one of them would be overly interested in saying, you know what, for the good of the game, maybe for our pockets, which are pretty heavy anyway, we're doing okay. I don't think they just brush this thing aside.
Does golf need this? Does golf need a rivalry like this?
That's what I just tweeted out. Good or bad for golf, right? This rivalry. And I think it's good. I think it's a bad look for the Golf Channel that this got out. It is a bad look for them.
Yeah.
But for the game of golf, I think it's good because it can bring in casual fans. It's not often you can have a fun, oftentimes just joking with like celebrity deathmatch stuff, conversation about the personalities in golf. It's not about the personalities generally in golf, but now you've got it. And you've got guys who aren't likable. So you can take your guys that you want to root for, and then you got a group of guys that you can choose. You can pick your own side. I do think it's good for golf.
I think it's interesting because I think that there's not a right or wrong answer to that question. I think that golf has multiple groups of fans, okay? Because golf is a gentleman's game. We all know that. And traditionally in this country, I would say folks like my uncles who have played golf, this is what they do to go out and hang around the boys and just want to walk up down the course and have a drink or a cigar, whatever. They probably don't like this a whole lot. And I don't blame them. Mm-hmm. Golf's a gentleman's game. Matter of fact, a lot of those people didn't like Tiger, back in the late 90s. The energy that he brought, the group of fans that he brought to the course. But as time went on and things kind of molded themselves, I think everybody learned, okay, whether I personally like or don't like Tiger Woods is great for this game, and it has helped grow the game in ways we never thought possible. So I think everybody's accepted that. I also think there's a younger group of people that want to see a rivalry like this in golf because there are villains, as you said. Those three always stand out to me too. But you don't see rivalries in this sport like you see in pretty much every other sport, and that includes racing or tennis. And so I think that there's a group of people that would want to see that. I don't want to see it become the face of golf, but I think it would be an interesting storyline as part of golf.
Because right now they're friends. This whole young group of guys that have come up that have taken over the sport. You could throw Zalatoris into that mix, who just got out of Wake Forest, and he's good friends with Jordan Spieth, Thomas, Fowler. I mean, the list goes on. They're all good friends. It reminds me, the hatred wasn't there, but it reminds me of Tiger and Phil, because you brought up Tiger. And someone pointed, I think it was Scott, who said, Phil always sort of played the bridesmaid, and it was because he was playing in Tiger's era. But there was always who's the nicer guy, who's the better guy. Tiger's always focused. Tiger's not going to give you personality when he's out on the course, but Phil would. There were plenty of rumors that behind the scenes it was completely flipped, but at least there was that rivalry that people paid attention to. Now it's not the rivalry because they're all friends and they're all rooting for each other. I think that's good for the game too, but this adds some sauce. So I think the combination is good for the game.
Craig said, why would you want to be hated if you're Koepka? I don't know that he wants to be hated. I just don't think that he cares if he is.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know that he wants to be hated or anything like that. I don't know that he wants to be known as a villain. I just think that Brooks Koepka is going to be Brooks Koepka, and he doesn't really care what you think about him. And that goes for his peers on the golf course.
I completely agree. And DeChambeau's the exact same way. He doesn't care what you think. He's going to go out and he's going to do what he wants to do. And whatever you think, you think. That's why I'll circle back to, are they going to just let this thing go for the good of themselves? Because they don't care. They're going to be who they are. They don't like who each other is. This thing is not going away anytime soon.
4-1 Florida, by the way, over Kentucky in the 6th. And I also want to just punch this score in. I mentioned in the Sun Belt that Coastal is leading 15-0 over Arkansas Little Rock. In the American, UCF leads Cincinnati 14-10 in the 9th. Wow, what is going on today? So, Darren, there have the last couple of days, there have been 2 videos on social media in the sports world that have caught fire, and rightfully so. This is one. The other, of course, is Shannon Sharp and his live phone call with former Alabama wide receiver and I think current Falcons wide receiver Julio Jones. Which one was worse? And when I ask that question, you have to define worse, right? Like, how do you define that? I guess which one got more of reaction and why?
Both got a ton of reaction from the two fan bases. What I find very, very odd about the Julio Jones thing, apparently it was this known secret that he asked for a trade about 3 months ago, I think it was. But nobody was really reporting on that. That's one. Two, he's obviously friends with Shannon Sharp. Three, and I was checking with this earlier today about states and laws. There are differing laws in differing states about whether it's legal or not to have somebody on the air without them knowing, similar to recording someone without them knowing. I'm not sure what it is where they were taping. I'm assuming California, but it's supremely unethical to do that. I find it impossible to believe that at least 3 people, Julio Jones, Shannon Sharp, and Skip Bayless, at least those 3 knew what was going on. I don't know if everyone producing the show knew. I don't know if the MC or host of the show really knew. Those 3 knew. They had to know.
I agree with you. All right, so let me phrase it this way. Anybody that you and I know in the sports world, literally anybody that you and I know in the sports world, if we called them between the hours of 12 and 2 o'clock, they would answer the phone like, hey, are you not on the air?
Mm-hmm.
Or aren't you on the air? Or something like that. Hey, what's up, man? Like, are you not on the air today? It would be a surprise to get a phone call from one of us between 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. And we could name 1,000 names. That's not the point. The point is they know what we do. If Shannon Sharp and Julio Jones, obviously they have a relationship, clearly. So if he's getting a phone call from Shannon Sharp in a time where he knows he's live on the air and he's not surprised by it, that tells me this whole thing was staged.
And you can go a step farther. Skip Bayless isn't one to avoid controversy, never has been, never will be. And you haven't heard any type of anger from Julio Jones. If I went on the air and I hadn't publicly said I want to be traded and everything's been handled very quietly, exactly how you'd want it to go, if I went on the air and suddenly announced it to a national audience and didn't know that I was doing that, I'd be ticked off. You haven't heard Julio Jones angry, right? There's nothing that adds up to me that he did not know.
I agree, and I'll be honest. I think that Shannon Sharp would already be suspended if that was something that really, like, truly caused a stir. And all of a sudden, you've got the NFL knocking on your door. You got the Atlanta Falcons knocking on your door. You got Julio Jones's agent knocking on your door. Even if Julio Jones was like, "Nah, it's all good with me, man. I'm cool with it," and maybe somebody is. We haven't heard it publicly if that's true, but you would have there's something by now. We know something. I mean, somebody somewhere would have said something, and we haven't heard a whisper from this thing. No. I would think there'd be a suspension in line for shit. Nothing. So I'm not saying that top executives or anything like that were involved. I don't know. I have no idea. All we can do is speculate, but based on literally no response since then from anybody, and based on the way that the conversation went, just kind of trying to use logic here. Again, we're in the industry, not on that level or near it, but we're in the industry to where, like, if I call somebody right now, like my phone, literally somebody is texting me right now. If I picked up the phone and called them, their response would be, "Dude, you're not on the air."
So true story. I don't know how many years ago this was. Whenever Bobby Cremins was hired by the College of Charleston, I was producing another show in town. I don't remember how I had gotten Bobby Cremins' number. That would be a good story if I could ever remember how that happened. But I remember when Greg Marshall ducked out, and that day on the air, I called Bobby Cremins. And no, of course, he had absolutely no idea who I was or what number was calling him, but he answered the phone. And I didn't have him answer live on the air, but he answered the phone. And the first thing I said to him is, "Hey, this is Darren Goldwater. This is where I'm working. We are live on the air. Are you okay coming on talking about any possible interest in the College of Charleston job?" And he said yes, and he came on the air. But the first thing I said to him was my name, and we're going to put you live on the air. You have to do that.
Yeah.
So even a former player who may not be as media trained as others, Sharp's been in the business for a while. He knows that's not okay to do. I just can't believe that at least those 3, I don't know any about behind the scenes, at least those 3 knew what was going on.
I think the video that I had more reaction to was the easily the Koepka to Shambo video, just because of what we talked about. It's the other stuff with Shannon Sharp and Julio Jones seemed way too staged. That was not with Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau. And I'm kind of with you. I really hope that somebody pairs them up somewhere like the U.S. Open, although my doubts are there. I don't think that they will.
It could go great, and it could just implode in their face.
Oh, it could be really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
Kind of like pitching in Charlotte between Clemson and Louisville. Balls are leaving the yard left and right. We're also about an hour away from South Carolina and Kentucky in Hoover, as long as South Carolina and Alabama in Hoover, as long as Kentucky and Florida can get theirs wrapped up in a timely manner, which generally doesn't happen in Hoover. So we'll update you on the college baseball scoreboard when we return, and we'll also bring in our friend Gene Sapakoff. He'll wrap his week at the PGA Championship out on the Ocean Course on Kiowa Island. We'll talk some postseason stuff with him. And we do have Mike Morgan ahead at 1:30 today. Mike is scheduled to call the ACC baseball tournament. And if it continues going the way of game one between the Tigers and the Cardinals, Mike is going to be there at least until 2024. So we'll check in with him as well. Hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. We'll be right back.
Mike Morgan here for Gamecock Traditions. Baseball is going strong. You'll want to look sharp when you cheer on your Gamecocks. Under Armour, New Era, sideline hats, all with interlocking SC Baseball logo. 18 styles of $10 tees exclusively at Gamecock Traditions. Get on that email list by going to the bottom of the page, enter your email, and always be the first to know about new items as they arrive. You can also add a little Gamecock flair with house signs, garden flags, interior and yard decorations, only at one place, Gamecock Traditions.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston. Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Lowcountry. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the national anthem.
JB Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
10-8. Another run is on the board. 18 of them scored combined between Clemson and Louisville, and they are still in the fifth inning. Welcome back. Hour 2 of the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. It is conference tournament time in college baseball. JB on the right. If you're watching, Darren is on the left. Follow us on social media across all platforms at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. You can always send us a message or a comment or whatever you want to send. You can text it to us as well, 843-321-8893, and we'll pop you into the program and make you a part of our afternoon. We've got the Kentucky-Florida game still on the field over in Hoover as well. The Gamecocks, of course, are following them against the Crimson Tide, scheduled to throw the first pitch around 2 o'clock. And so we'll see if that gets pushed back. Thanks to Derek Scott for joining us at the top of our show. But we now get to Gene Sapakoff, who has wrapped up another work week on the golf course, this time the 2021 PGA Championship. Hey, Gene.
It was like driving to a coal mine every day, having to wind through those beautiful roads at Kiowa Island and then get to the PGA Championship. But I made it through, guys.
I'm sorry. I feel badly for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. But, you know.
You know what was worse, Augusta or Kiowa?
Yeah, that's always a tough one. I would never compare almost anything with Augusta unless Phil Mickelson's going to win a major championship at 50 years old, which gives you guys hope, you youngsters. When you work your way up to 50, you know, you can be in your prime. I just want you to know that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. By the way, CBS Sports PR tweeted out just a little while ago that viewership was up 27% in the final round coverage from last year, averaging 6.58 million viewers, but viewership peaked between 7 and 7:15, of course, right there when Phil was winning at 13 million. So 13 million sets of eyes on Kiowa Island. Gene, what do you think that means for the future of golf?
Well, here's what I think it means, that if you're a real estate agent anywhere between Savannah and Little River, that you're in good shape for a while because people are going to be wanting to move in and buy just about any kind of property in the low country. For golf, I think it's good. You know, you mentioned the ratings being better than last year. Golf actually got a bump in ratings generally last year because they were one of the first sports out, I guess, them and NASCAR, to be on TV and have live competition. And Colin Morikawa winning in San Francisco, I think that did pretty good. But I'll tell you the larger thing, Darren and Jamie, that I think for me, liking to look at sports history and stuff, I think that was the biggest, top, greatest sporting event in the history of South Carolina as far as any game or event or match or activity played on Palmetto State soil. Now, I'm not talking about what happens in Omaha or San Jose or Tampa, things like that. But tell me something that was a bigger national thing that's happened in the state than Phil Mickelson winning a major at 50 when no one else had done anything close to that. So, I'm saying that. That's what I think.
I don't know that I have an argument for you at this point. I mean, actually, we ask you about a year ago to write an article about this, the top 10 sporting moments ever?
We did, and that's a good point, and I thought about that too, Jamie. And what I did though is I included what the criteria there was in South Carolina or involving teams from South Carolina. So there you go with Clemson's national championship, South Carolina's baseball and women's basketball national championships, and so on and so on. And so it gets pretty clogged up. But for something that's happened here, I mean, right off the bat, I really like that South Carolina win over Alabama when the Tide was ranked number 1, and Stephen Garcia, Marcus Lattimore, and Alshon Jeffrey had tremendous games. South Carolina beating Duke in Greenville to get to, the Sweet 16 in New York, that those kinds of things come to mind. Obviously, Clemson's had a lot of big home games in Death Valley, but their biggest games have been outside the state. And it's just hard to think of anything bigger outside college football. Heck, the War on the Shore 1991 Ryder Cup would come up there. So,
well, those might be the two top. Those might be the top two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that as far as having a national/international impact. I think when you think about it, and yeah, the Mickelson thing is crazy. I've so many people that don't give a darn about golf cared about that and were watching that. That's something that just is transcendent. You just don't see in other sports.
Well, so how would you compare it to Tiger? His comeback. I guess, you can throw in the 2018 Tour Championship over there in Atlanta because that scene was unbelievably remarkable. But everybody's going to, if there is a comparison, everybody wants to talk about the majors, right? So they want to compare it to the 2019 Masters. I mean, that was a comeback for Tiger. Phil hasn't had the same challenges, but he was in nobody's conversation to even be near the top of the leaderboard, let alone maybe even make the cut. 200-1 odds, 300-1 odds. And he won this thing. Is there even a comparison, or how do you talk about those two moments in golf?
That could be just a classic argument at 19th holes and living rooms and places all over the world, really, for a long time. Like you said, Tiger had more physical challenges, the back, the car accident, way more personal problems, things like that. Plus, let's face it, he's Tiger. He's the best or second best golfer of all time. I saw Jaime Diaz of the Golf Channel, and that guy, he came up writing about golf for Sports Illustrated and other magazines too. He knows what he's talking about. He said on Sunday morning that if Phil wins, he gets into the top 15 of greatest golfers all time. And so, I mean, you still have the Watsons, Palmers, Hagans, Hogans, all those guys, let alone Jack, Arnie, and Tiger, of course. So just Tiger being Tiger and coming back and, like you said, winning in Atlanta, then winning in his 40s at the Masters, that's going to at least be equal to Phil, I would say. But what a great argument.
Where were you when Phil and Brooks were coming up the 18th fairway to the green? Were you around the green? Were you behind them? Were you in a press area? I'm just trying to get the feel of someone who was around that scene to explain what it was like.
Probably about the feel that you had, because what I think I usually have to do is I need to be watching that thing on TV. So I'm following them like to a certain extent on the course, but I really want to be in there to make sure I don't miss anything in the press room, which is about 100 yards in a tent away from the 18th green.
Yeah.
I really felt it was my responsibility to watch it from there. I mean, I've done both in golf, been out there at the end and been inside, but it's a toss up. But to answer your question, yeah, I was watching it on this huge screen in the media tent.
I would have done the same thing.
Assess our community.
It's a tough call. And that was some serious drama out there, but I knew it wasn't going to come down to like a last shot, but because of that bizarre crowd scene, I kind of wish I would have been out there.
Yeah. Gene Sapakoff with the Post and Courier 110 on a Tuesday afternoon. I was, Gene, speaking over the weekend with a golf pro who was there and happened to speak with one of the somebody who was involved in putting this tournament together with the PGA, one of their representatives this weekend. And it turns out they pretty much ended up allowing about 4,000 more fans a day to the course, and they handled it seemingly remarkably from what I understand. Assess what you saw throughout the week, even starting on Thursday and through the final round on Sunday. Assess our community here, Gene, one that you've been a part of for so long, their support, just the things that you got to see, hear, and feel while you were out there for this year's tournament.
Well, I think they did a great job, and I think it came together well from both the Kiowa Islands Resorts point of view and the PGA of America that put the thing together. They got two things that they didn't get in 2012 when things were, let's face it, a logistical mess. One, the weather was just ideal, and it wasn't in 2012. It was at best hot and humid, and then on Saturday rained so much they had to suspend play, as you guys remember. So they got that. And then, the crowd, I think that they were at first, we're going to say, 10,000 a day. They may have gotten up to 20,000, like your source said, 3,000 or 4,000 more than that. You could just see the tickets were being sort of leaked out on the official PGA website. There were their official secondary market tickets there for basically face value all week. Whoa. So there you go. And but still, just the planning, the parking was so much better. Parking on the island this time was better. The traffic coordination on all those beautiful but difficult to navigate roads on John's Island were just very well managed. But really, shuttle service, all that stuff, they did a tremendous job. And last but not least, whereas last time they had a lot of complaining national and international media housed downtown and near Ripley's Point at the hotels near California Dreaming, they put them virtually all on the island at $209 a night. And so they loved that. And now you have no complaining media. Lightning could have just about struck them and they would have said it was fine.
Well, I'll tell you this. I know a bunch of people that worked it. The higher level guys were there. They were staying at the sanctuary. The other guys were all spread out. I had a buddy who was staying right by Riley Park. I had another buddy who was staying in North Charleston. They found rooms wherever they could find them. But the top guys, the top producers, directors, talent, they were all there.
Yeah, and like I talked to Michael Collins at ESPN, and he just beamed because I know I rode the bus with him in 2012 every day, and boy, was he not a happy camper. And who was? No, I wasn't a happy camper because the local media would have to go meet the bus, over at Ripley's Point and catch the bus, and it was kind of a mess, really. But hey, I didn't complain in 2012. That was a great tournament too. That was a good tournament. This one though was absolutely great.
10-9. Another home run has left the yard. Clemson's got one in there. We'll get
yourself with that one.
Oh, whew, man! No,
there's still nobody out. It looks like no, bottom six now.
So bottom of the six. We'll get there in just a minute. Gene, are they coming back? What'd you hear out there?
I think so. I mean, I talked to the PGA Tour people on Sunday morning and had been kind of talking to a lot of Kiowa people. They've got a spot in 2030 and in 2032 and in 2033. So I think they get one of those probably. I'd bet that. I know that's a long way away for people to look for, but still, if you get a major about every 10 years in the low country, that's like, how can you slightly complain? They have an open spot for the 2041 Ryder Cup, which would be the 50th anniversary of the 1991 War on the Shore, which was arguably the greatest Ryder Cup ever. But the consensus there from the sources I talked to is that they probably are going to go to Frisco, Texas for that. They've just built a beautiful, actually complex of golf courses there. That's the new PGA headquarters also. And Frisco already has the 2027 and 2034 PGA Championship.
Well, that's nothing. Doesn't anybody pay attention to college football scheduling? Scheduling a golf tournament 10, 20 years in advance, that's nothing compared to these schools. They're scheduling all the way out to 2100. Yeah,
and they could even do some sort of home and home arrangement or something, with Frisco and Kiowa. What are you talking about? I don't know.
I agree. What's more important to the immediate future of the sport, monitoring Phil Mickelson or monitoring Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka's future brawl?
I'm going to say the latter because that has some true legs to it that could go on for a while, which would be fun.
Do you think a rivalry like that? I mean, you saw the video. I mean, that's they obviously don't like each other, or at least Brooks Koepka just flat out doesn't like him. Is that good for golf?
Sure it is. I mean, rivalries are really good for individual sports like that. I mean, Navratilova, Everett, McEnroe, Borg, things like that. That's when tennis was at its best. Golf needs something like that. They had Jack and Arnie for a while. Tiger and Phil, I mean, they were contemporaries, but never actually clashed that much in major championships. So, yeah, they could use that.
All right, Gene, on to baseball we go. It's 4-1 Florida over Kentucky in the top of the 8th, but we're going to start with what's going on up in Charlotte. We'll speak to Mike Morgan here in about 15 minutes. He's headed that way. He'll be calling the ACC championship on the four-letter network, or one of them. It is 10-9. Clemson has to win both pool games to get to the semifinal round, which, of course, will start on Saturday. They are in Pool B with second-seeded Georgia Tech and seventh-seeded Louisville, whom they swept earlier this year, but right now, currently, as I mentioned, are down by 1 run in the bottom of the 6th inning there. So if they lose this game, Gene, if they lose this game, it's over. Their season is done. I mean, they're 2 games under 500. They actually have to win these next 2 games. I don't know what's going to happen in the next. They might score another 30 runs in the last 3 innings here, based on the way this sucker is gone. But you know, they've struggled, and they got swept this weekend by Duke. And there are some fans that are calling for the future of Monty Lee to be non-existent. How would you assess this season for Monty as the head coach of the Tigers, and how would you discuss that with his future at the school?
There's been a lot of excuses. He's got a young team. He had injuries early, like Ackenberg and Keir Meredith missing the South Carolina series, losing both of those by 1 run. Maybe that is the snapshot of the season. They've got a lot of 1-run losses. At latest count, I had them being 3-9 in 1-run games. Maybe it's more now, but anyway, still, you can't finish 62 in the RPI going into your conference tournament, that low in the ACC, when, let's face it, it's not a great year for the ACC, except really for Notre Dame. And the biggest indictment and problem is call up NCAA RPI, which isn't somebody guessing. That's official RPI. Some of the teams ahead of Clemson, right in the sort of regional area, Wofford, Mercer, USC Upstate, VCU, Old Dominion. I mean, that is the kind of stuff that will drive fans crazy. Why are the schools I just mentioned ahead of you in the RPI? Forget about the ACC. So I don't think anything's going to happen with Monty. I'd be stunned, actually, if it did, but he would officially be on the hot seat going into next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate to say. I mean, because I'm a huge believer in Monty Lee as a baseball coach. I know that they've had some things not go their way, but Clemson fans expect more. They should expect more. I mean, it's a wonderful baseball program. It's been one of the most successful programs in the country. They do not have a national championship, and their rivals have 2 of them. And this year, Carolina's kicking their rear end and is headed to the postseason. Gene, we could have 3. We'll see what Coastal does. I don't anticipate it to work out. 3 or 4 Palmetto State teams in the postseason. One of them would not be Clemson.
Yeah, and that's another problem strictly from talking. This subject here is the Clemson Tigers and Monty Lee, so that wouldn't be good for the Palmetto State college baseball. That would be pretty cool. But overall, I mean, a kind of an average year for Clemson is winning a regional and losing a super regional. I mean, that's the standard that had been set by Jack Leggett, and even earlier in Monty Lee's tenure, when he won an ACC championship right off the bat and was regularly hosting regionals. So this is one of the worst years in Clemson baseball since Bill Wilhelm took over in the mid-'60s.
You know, I almost think, too, and then I do want to get to South Carolina with you, but I almost think, Gene, because he hasn't been able to get out of any of those regionals, or they have not been able to, Monty doesn't play all these games. I'd like to remind everybody that. I know he coaches them, but he doesn't play the actual games. So those teams have not been able to get out of regionals, and I think what bothers fans the most, and I get it, I really, truly understand this, when you host a bunch of regionals, you got to get out of at least one of them, right? I mean, you got to get to a super. If you're a host, there's a great chance generally that you're going to move on from those games in your own ballpark. But that has not happened at all. They've gotten to the regionals, and then they have not advanced to a super regional under Monty to this point. And so you almost wonder, had they gotten to one, maybe a couple of, obviously last year they didn't play, the season was canceled, but had they gotten to one in 2019 or 2018 and showed that they could advance at least to almost to Omaha, you almost wonder if there'd be as much heat on him this year by missing the postseason.
That's a very good point. And I mean, like losing to Oklahoma State in a regional at home, an Oklahoma State team that then went on to eliminate the Gamecocks in a super regional. But still, yeah, if you had had one of those Vanderbilt times that you hosted or the Oklahoma State time, the conversation would be different right now. Good point, Jamie.
All right. How about the conversation for South Carolina? CJ Waynes will start today against Tyler Ross. He's Bama's ace, although his numbers don't look like it, and his last name is not spelled like it either. It's R-A-S. But Carolina, they're gonna get a home crowd over there in support of the Tide. Luckily, this game won't be playing tonight, so you don't have the drunk Tide fans, which is always a good thing. I've been to Alabama at night. It's a scary place. Carolina never plays well in Hoover. They've done it once. That was in 2004. They won the championship and then, of course, went on to the College World Series that year as well under Coach Tanner. Gene, they're in. We know they're in. But the question is whether they can maybe win another couple of games to earn a 1 seed. I heard, I don't know if you caught this or not, at the beginning of the Florida-Kentucky broadcast today, Chris Burke and Ben McDonald were talking with, as they call him, Tommy Hart, about South Carolina and being a host as a 2 seed. You remember those days, right, Gene? They thought that they had fixed all this, but maybe if the Gamecocks, because it's 100% capacity, are in contention to host with a Charlotte, or who it's going to be maybe half of what you could fit in Founders Park or somebody else. Do you think that's even on the table, that if Carolina does not earn a 1 seed, that they could actually be a 2 seed but still bring a regional to the Midlands?
Possibly, and it's more because of some of these COVID restrictions at the smaller places that could be hosts, I think, that just wouldn't be able to be as reliable. But that wouldn't surprise me, and that would be kind of cool. But we'll see. I don't know. I really think they still have a pretty good chance to be a host. I don't see why not. They have a 14 RPI with a few teams ahead of them that I just don't think are going to stay in those spots. And they play the committee will see that they've played a ridiculously tough schedule.
Let me play along with that. Let me back that up with a couple of interesting other points that I heard today, because Derek Scott earlier made one, and he said, look, I think I'm the only one that's publicly talking about this. Florida and South Carolina's resumes, they're not that much different, and everybody in the national media is seemingly cementing the Gators in as a host. Carolina did sweep them earlier this year, but Derek went even further and said, hey, look, man, they played A&M and Auburn from the West. Carolina didn't get that. They had to play Ole Miss, Mississippi State. They did have to play LSU. Of course, they had to play Arkansas. They had to go on the road to Texas. And then also, they got put into this top 20 conversation when they were 12-12 in the league. This was brought up by Chris Burke. Since then, they've gone 4-2 in the SEC. He was saying, by virtue of that, wouldn't you think your chances would be better of hosting with that 667 winning percentage in the final 6 games of the regular season?
I think so. I mean, I just almost don't get the just critique of South Carolina's resume and portfolio, if you will. I just think that the combination of the league they play in, how they've done, even close losses, I don't know how much that counts. But, wow, the non-conference, I know they didn't win at Texas, but they played them. Texas is not just going to make it as a host. They're going to be a national seed easily. So I just like the Gamecocks' chances a lot. And I like it going forward, too, because I think that Skylar Meade, the pitching coach, can mix and match a lot of things with that bullpen. I mean, you've seen guys come in and out of the closer role. Brett Carey, in and out of the bullpen to the starter. Things like that are going to match up really well in short series.
I agree. Let me ask you this final question. This is hypothetical because it doesn't matter. They played it. Let's say Carolina didn't schedule the Texas series, Gene. They're 33-20 right now. If they didn't schedule that series, we all know what would have happened. They would have scheduled some bogus 3-game series against some team that's not very good. They would have basically had to pick up the scraps at that point in time because they had lost a weekend. So in North Carolina A&T or somebody along those lines, it wouldn't have been as fun of a series, and it would have been at home, and they more likely would have had a sweep. So they'd be sitting here at 36-17, and 16-14 in the league. Now their RPI wouldn't probably be quite as high because they wouldn't have those 3 Texas games on there, or maybe it might be in the middle because they wouldn't have those 3 Texas losses on there. I'm not sure. But would we even be having a conversation about whether they should or shouldn't be hosting? Do you think that they would just be right now at 36-17 firmly cemented in there?
Tough one. And in your example, Texas versus North Carolina A&T, I don't know. The other risk there is, I know in your example, you have them winning that series, but a lot of those mid-majors have one pitcher that's good, and you could easily go just 2-1 in that, and then that blows up that whole thing. So I don't know. I'm glad they played Texas. I'm glad they're playing again next year, and I think they absolutely deserve to host, even if they get blown out today.
I agree. I'm really glad they played that, and I'm glad the Horns come to Columbia next year. Jeffrey Gilbert is on the mound, but it is 13-9 now. Louisville leading the Clemson Tigers. Gene, I don't know how much you've slept in since the Masters. You're on golf courses all over, and in 3 weeks you're going to be on another one. I'm assuming you're headed to Congaree, right?
We're going to see about that. I had some vacation scheduled, but that gets more and more tempting to go out and see what happens there. And they're going to have a good field there. I know DJ's already committed, so it should be fun.
Well, we always have fun with you, and we really appreciate everything that you do for our program. Great stuff, great coverage of the PGA Championship. I have thoroughly enjoyed reading, as many have, the Post and Courier. Mickelson, Gators, and Beer. That was the coolest column I've read in a long time. Your scorecard for Kiowa's PGA Championship. Those that haven't seen it, they should go read it. Gene gave him, matter of fact, the scorecard's better than Mickelson. The course outdid Mickelson. I didn't think you could do that. So that's a great stuff, man.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Darren.
We'll see.
There you go. Gene Sapakoff on Twitter at Sapakoff with the Post and Courier. 13-9, Darren. 10 home runs?
10 home runs, 6 of them by Louisville. Louisville has at least 2 runs in every inning, 3 of them in the 6th. The only exception is the 5th inning. They only got 1 run in that inning.
For those wondering whether South Carolina and Florida will start in Florida and Alabama will start on time, maybe. It's 1:29. It is the bottom of the 8th inning. The Gators have an out. They also have a pair of runners on base, and they're leading Kentucky 4-1. They're the home team, is Florida. So 5 outs away from this one being complete. And as it generally is in Hoover, ball games are set to go 25 minutes after completion of the game in front of them.
25 minutes. My God, when I was doing SoCon, it was like 30 or 45 minutes.
Yeah, 25. So I have a feeling we're going to probably be about 25 minutes behind. My guess would be they're going to be closer to a 2:30 first pitch this afternoon. It is 3-0 on this hitter right now, but we'll see. It is also Power Hour, powered by Wando Power Equipment, and they power our next conversation. Mic'd up with Mike Morgan right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with 0 down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest, easiest way to sell your car and get the most money for your trade. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump? Strike 2! If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with 0 down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to BCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes Speed Up.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right. Local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, now featuring once again local caught hand-breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating taps all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
Hey, South Carolina, what's going on? This is Patrick Davis, and you are listening to my friends JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Final segment, Tuesday afternoon. Conference baseball tournaments being played, or getting started, I should say, across the country. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show. As I mentioned, Power Hour, powered by Wando Power Equipment. You can grab the Wes Clark of zero-turn mowers. That is the Hustler zero-turn mower Raptor series at Wando Power Equipment, wandopower.com on Daniel Island, where folks come from everywhere because of the pricing, because of the service, the financing, everything available, and most importantly, the Price family, Polk and Harrison. Great dudes. Check them out on Daniel Island, as we all have, including this guy, Mike Morgan, who's going to be actually calling the ACC baseball tournament. Heads up in Charlotte, Mike. Balls are landing all over the city. 14-9 now, Louisville over Clemson in the 6th. What's up, man?
Hello, Mike.
Did we lose him?
Apparently we lost him.
Okay. Well, we'll just have to get him back, or we just cut it off.
We'll call him back.
Yeah, we'll call old Mikey back. He just totally ruined my my creative intro for him there.
And your train of thought, like Brooks Koepka completely lost his train of thought.
Yeah, that's right, but I won't use the language that Brooksy did. Again, 14-9 as they head to the top of the 7th inning with Kier Meredith coming up to the plate for the 11th seeded Clemson Tigers. 5-run deficit, and pretty much if they don't win this ball game here, it will be all but over this year for Clemson baseball and their hopes of playing in the postseason. But it looks like we've got him back. He'll be in the booth for the ACC Baseball Championship up in Charlotte. Hey, Mike.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Well, we're good. Don't park too close to the ballpark, because the way that balls are leaving the yard today, you're going to need to call your insurance company.
Well, I'm not there yet. I'm en route. Hope to be there for the next game on. But I heard you kind of during the break kind of talk about the score and the importance of the game for Clemson, and you're certainly right. This is the 3rd time I've done the event, and the last time I did it, Clemson wound up winning it. They beat Florida State in the championship game. That was part of back-to-back years of hosting a regional for Monty Lee, and since then it's been some tough waters. So it's been a very uneven year. Like, just when you want to count them out and dig their grave, they pull off an unprecedented sweep, but then they disappoint you the next weekend. So unfortunately for Monty and company, that's kind of the way it's been.
Yeah, I mean, after they swept Louisville, you thought, okay, here they come. And then they beat USC Upstate, who's competing for the Big South Championship. They got a chance to win that. Upstate's been a really good club this year, and seemingly they were playing much better, were the Tigers, but just 2-8 since then. They've lost all 3 series against Georgia Tech, Florida State, and Duke, swept in 2 of those against the Yellow Jackets and the Blue Devils. They will play Georgia Tech tomorrow, but if they don't win this game today, Mike, that game's pretty much not going to matter because they were going to because they're the lower seed. They had to win both games in their pool to advance to the weekend in the semifinals, and then that'll be season over for Clemson.
Right, which, by the way, I was talking about this the other day. pool play has kind of grown on me. And I'll tell you why. I still maintain what you do during the course of a 30, or in this case, 36 game conference schedule slate should far outweigh what you do in one weekend or 1 week that you get hot in a conference tournament. I feel that way in basketball. I certainly feel that way in baseball. I remember Carolina in 2000, number one in the country. You go 25-5 in the SEC, which was the best of all time, and your reward is being the number one seed. Back then, you didn't even get a bye, so you played the 8th seed, and you wind up playing Kentucky. Remember who was starting for Kentucky in that game?
Oh gosh, big leaguer.
I'll give you a clue. A big league all-star, Brandon Webb.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
and that wound up being Kip Balknight's only loss of the season. You lose that game, and then I think won the next one, lost the next one, something like that. But anyway, it's just, if you want to incentivize the work of the regular season, I like the fact that in pool play, first of all, everybody's guaranteed 2 games. So you're not just going there to go 1 and out. But secondly, if it's a tie in your pool, which it very often is, the higher seed gets the tiebreaker, and that's it. And that's the way it should be. If you were the best team all year, and you go 1-1, and they go 1-1, and they go 1, you're advancing. Period. And then you got single elimination in the semis, which I'll be doing on Saturday, and then it's the championship game on Sunday, which I'll be doing. So I kind of like some of that. I was very resistant at first, but I look at conference tournaments for what they are. And I'll be very curious, for example, in Hoover, I see Carolina's already made an executive decision. They're starting a midweek guy. Mm-hmm. Alabama's got to start their ace because Alabama's fighting for their postseason lives. Carolina is not. Is Tennessee going to use their top dog when they've already clinched the national seed? Is Arkansas? I don't know. I think you have to face a very difficult decision there as a head coach, whether or not you just want to save those guys for the regionals and super regionals and hopefully Omaha.
All right, so per your comments there, because let me explain the differences for folks who may not understand, and we're just going to talk about these 2 leagues for this conversation. But the ACC has 4 pools, A through D. You're guaranteed 2 games, and then each pool winner advances to the semifinals, and then that game, the winners of those 2 semifinal games go to the championship. In the SEC, it's single elimination today, seeds 6 through 12. And then starting tomorrow, it's double elimination, but then it goes back to single elimination on the weekend. So which do you like better?
Like I said, I'm really warming up. Here's what I like, too, about the ACs, the pool play. I don't want – let's look at Carolina, okay? Carolina's going to a regional, which is a very big deal for that program, okay? Couple of tough years, et cetera, et cetera. Let's say you lose that first game or second game, as it were, right? Because you're playing the second game. So now you're in the losers bracket. So if you're in it to win it at that point, the amount of pitching you're going to have to exhaust to get all the way to Sunday, it just seems to me over my year, and I broadcasted 15 SEC tournaments. It's going to take its toll for the following week in a lot of cases. So is it really worth it to do that? Whereas if you're in the ACC, let's keep Carolina, but what's in a magical world, the bizarro world, we'll put Carolina back in the ACC on a 1-year experiment. You play in your pool, you play your 2 games, and then if you go 2-0, well then great. Let's play to win this thing. And you play in the semis, you play in the title game. No more than 4 games. And if you go 1-1 and you don't make it, well then fine. We just saved up our arms for next weekend. I remember a couple of those years playing 6 games in Hoover, and it's not just on your pitching staff. Psychologically speaking, it's a lot. it's a lot on a squad to do that. In 2004, we went out there and won the first two, had a day off to go to the Galleria movie theater. I think Jim Tolman and Storm and I went and saw Thor, an epic flick. Had a fine meal at Shula's.
Oh.
And then the next day, won Saturday, and then the next day won the championship game on Sunday, 4-0. Boom. Well, that's fine. If you can go that route, great. But outside of that, if you lose a game in Hoover, you really have got to have a grueling stretch to just make it to the championship game.
I mean, not to get too far off track here, Mike, but I just need to know what did Coach Toman eat at the movie theater?
A lot of popcorn with a lot of butter. A lot of popcorn. I'll tell you a funny story too. It was Storm, Monty Lee, and myself, the three of us.
That's
we're
a crew.
staying at the old Winfrey Hotel, which is now named something else. Yeah. And across the street is a movie theater. Well, in order to get there without a car, you had to go down this hill. And old Storm lost his footing going down the hill.
Oh no!
It lands right on his wallet, and I mean hard.
Oh. And
we're all like, "Are you okay? Are you all right?" And son of a gun, he popped right back up and walked off like nothing happened. And we were just like, you know what? That's how a pro does it right there.
That's right.
You fall on your ass, but then you get right back up as if, hey, I don't care. We're on to see the movie. No time to worry about pain. Pain don't hurt.
Give me that popcorn. Let's go.
Well, I kind of took Coach Toman as a popcorn guy, but I kind of feel like he'd mix in a milk dud or two. No?
You're testing my memory because this was 17 years ago. So I can't totally recall his food and beverage purchase, but it would not surprise me if there was a snack to complement the large tub of popcorn.
Yes, we'll shoot him a post-show text and find out what was in that meal, and we'll report back tomorrow around noon.
Yes.
Right here on the JB and Goldwater Show. That segment brought to you by Circle K. Mike, in the SEC tournament, and you can answer this any which way you would like to answer this question. It could be, to get in. It could be for seeding. It could be whatever. Who has the most to gain by winning in this tournament? I don't know how many games, a game, 2 games, 3 games, whatever it is. Which team would you circle as, well, this tournament is very important to them, and here's why?
Well, that's really easy. I mean, LSU and Alabama.
Okay.
Because they have to win to get in the tournament. So that is the ultimate. When your backs are against the wall, that means everything. I mean, for the Gamecocks, obviously, if you could make a deep run and somehow host, that's valuable. But you're already in, and I think that team's good enough to go on the road as a 2 seed and win. So the answer to that question for me is always going to be, who are the teams that have to win, that have to do some damage to keep their season alive? And it's LSU and Alabama. I didn't think Kentucky really had much of a shot. It looks like they're about to lose to Florida. Georgia, didn't like the way they finished the season. I think they'd have to make a really deep run. So I'm going to maintain it's LSU and Alabama.
Well, as it pertains to Georgia, I know that they're playing this game in the state of Alabama, and as I mentioned earlier with Derek Scott, good thing that the Gamecocks get the Tide in the afternoon, so the drunk Tide doesn't show up tonight. But if if you said, well, give me one winner from today, give me that 5:30 LSU Georgia game. I'll take LSU all day long because they're playing to get in this thing, and LSU's fans are going to be there no matter what. They're going to start to get into the evening. They've been drinking all day and eating gumbo and this, that, and the other. Let me ask you this about South Carolina. I think it's the 3rd time we've had this conversation today. Could the Gamecocks, Mike, because it's an unusual year and because they have chosen these 20 host sites, which I think that's down to 19. I think Pittsburgh's out. So could South Carolina theoretically host as a 2 seed?
Yes. I mean, it's happened before. I don't see why not. I didn't see any rule that said that could not happen. So
No, I didn't.
yes.
Well, I think, Mike, we've been working under the assumption the last couple of weeks that in order to host, they're going to have to be a 1 seed. And today I was listening to what do y'all call him? Berkey? Call him Berkey and Tommy and Louisiana Ben. And they were talking about that. I mean, Burke made actually an interesting point with the Gamecocks. He said, look, they were 12-12 and they got into this top 20. They're 4-2 in the league since then. Should that actually help them? And then they also were discussing the fact that, hey, well, now wait a second here. You know, why not be a 2-seed and host? I know that like 20, or I don't know when it was, Mike, correct me where I'm wrong, 15, 20 years ago, they bumped back these selections so they could make sure that 1 seeds were hosting. I think you called some regionals maybe where Carolina was a 2-seed at home or something like that, 1 seed on the road, whatever. So maybe we could go back to that because attendance. I mean, what if it's Charlotte and Columbia? Charlotte's going to be hosting in Gastonia versus Founders Park. They've done this 1,000 times. They know the drill, and they can get 8,000 people in there.
Well, I'm trying to completely understand your question. Can it happen? The answer is still yes, I believe. Look, I still think had Carolina won on Sunday, they'd be a shoo-in to host. By losing, they now have to do some damage in Hoover. And we all know they rarely play well in Hoover. So I'm going into it anticipating there's a good chance Carolina's going to have to play on the road. The committee, assuming all bids are roughly the same, and we're never privy to that information. We never get the 411 on how that all goes, right? That's top secret classified information. But assuming that, I don't think the committee is going to go out of its way to give the SEC what would probably be a 7th host team. I don't think the NCAA loves that notion. I think they want to have as much geographical balance and as much conference balance as they can within the confines of doing what's right and giving the most deserving teams. I think Carolina is a better team than Charlotte, East Carolina, Gonzaga, Louisiana Tech. But it doesn't matter what I think. They're not going to give special treatment to the Power 5 schools. That's just never the way it's been. And I don't think it's going to be the way it is now. So if you're Carolina, by losing that game against Tennessee, you've got your work cut out for you in Hoover in all likelihood.
Speaking of Hoover, Kentucky had the tying run at the plate, but that game is now over, 4-1 final. So Florida will advance, and South Carolina, it was what we thought was going to be a 2:15 start. They've pushed that back to 2:25 first pitch between the Tide and the Gamecocks. What else, Mike, stands out to you? You'll be calling the ACC here. You mentioned the pool play. I know we're kind of bouncing around a little bit, but there's just a lot to kind of get to. First of all, what is your schedule like this week? And second of all, what else are you most interested in seeing as it pertains to teams either trying to or that are already qualified for the postseason in the ACC championship?
Well, as it pertains to what I'm doing the semis on Saturday, back-to-back games, and the championship game Sunday on ESPN too. So you'll see Gabby Sanchez and I starting off kind of our champ game coverage on Sunday. We're at noon, and the SEC follows us, and the Big 12 follows them. So it's a triple header, like really, really good stuff in terms of programming for that day. And happy to be a part of it. Where the ACC and the SEC differ, two spots. Like, you could make a strong case that the ACC might get one more bid than the SEC does. Doesn't mean it's a better league, because the top 5 of the SEC, as I've maintained on your show, is the best I've ever seen it in any conference ever. So you might only get 8 bids at the SEC and the ACC because it's so bubble-ish. You got so many teams on the bubble. ACC could get 9. But the ACC doesn't have an Arkansas. They don't have a Mississippi State, a Vanderbilt. I'll be very curious, and I've done some research already on, is Notre Dame for real? Are they really a top 10 program this year? I know one thing, their coach is a Florida State alum, and you got a lot of Seminole fans saying, we could have hired him, but instead we hired Coach Martin's son. That's always a controversial move. But you've got so many teams in the ACC. Like, I'm trying to predict what my matchups are looking like on Saturday. And I'm having a really hard time doing it because you don't have the overwhelmingly dominant team. And you've got a bunch of really good teams in the middle. So, I mean, whether it's Notre Dame, Louisville, NC State, North Carolina, Georgia Tech, I'm leaving a few out, but Florida State, Miami, of course. There's just so many teams that could be in the semifinals. Whereas in the SEC, I honestly believe those top 4 seeds, there's not a whole lot of room for somebody else to crash the party. This is very similar to what I was telling you in the basketball tournament when you had every Tom, Dick, and Harry going, anybody could win it. No, that's not even remotely true. There was clearly a top half and a bottom half in SEC basketball. And there's clearly a line of demarcation and an advantage of getting the bye on the first day for those top 4 seeds. Now, Florida's got the pitching where they could make a run. Ole Miss, maybe. Outside of that, I mean, I don't see too many other teams in that league that are going to push for the championship game.
That Miami, Florida State, and Pool D is really interesting. Final question on this. It's hard to say it because they didn't know it, but we were talking about them expanding to 20. Did the committee make a mistake by leaving NC State out of this, the host conversation?
Yeah, it certainly looks like it. I mean, if NC State, if they wind up winning the ACC title game and the way they play down the stretch and their RPI and everything else, and they don't get to host, it's a really bad look. A really bad look. That's where you almost hope that somebody with a little common sense says, hey, why don't we go ahead and send some people, and for all I know, this could have already happened. Let's send some people over to Raleigh. Let's make sure it's COVID compliant. And let's go ahead and do this. I mean, we're already at the point now where everybody has lifted their sanctions, which were an overreach, depending on what you believe in, anyway. And so, I mean, you're going to have full stadiums at all these regionals, at all these super regionals in Omaha. So, you know, what are we doing that we're not just taking the most, like, maybe you felt like you had to do that at the time. I get it. I understand it. Think of how many times they've already, like, it's a moving target. How many times they've already changed the rules. We're going to make the decision on Monday. Nope. We're going to do it on Thursday. Nope. We're going to do it on Friday. We're going to do 60. No, let's do 20. Well, maybe we could do 25. No, maybe, now let's do 20. I mean, the rules have changed 100 times already. So at this point, I don't know why we're, it's a great point you make. I don't know why we're going to potentially rob a team of hosting because of what are now admittedly antiquated rules, because the whole country is opening up.
Yeah, I agree. I think they deserve it. I'm with you. If they make their way through this thing, there's no way that you could say that they don't deserve it. Let me throw out a wild, quick stat here as we let you run, Mike. NC State, they're 28-15. How about this? They are 15-3 away from their home ballpark, just 13-12 at home. I don't know that I've ever seen that before.
Or if they want to host.
Yeah, it's odd. You know, they've got a good coach who's been there a long time, but hopefully I can say this without offending anybody. But they have been a schizo league, and they're one of the schizo teams. Like they have been. That's the thing with the league as a whole. There's so many teams in this league where you're like, man, they look really good, and then they disappoint you. I know, like, for example, a lot of your audience, if you're a Carolina fan, then your focus is on Carolina, and then your minor is in the SEC, and so you really don't know a bunch about the ACC, and vice versa if you're a Clemson fan, ACC. But I'll tell you this: I mean, there is a ton of talent in the ACC. There's a bunch of players that are going to be playing in the big leagues. There's a bunch of really good coaches. Where they fail to match up with the SEC is, like I said, just an unprecedented top 5 this year in the Southeastern Conference. I mean, I will be really surprised if you don't see minimum 3 teams in Omaha from the SEC, and I would be even less surprised if there's 4. I mean, I just think you're looking at that kind of year, depending on where they put everybody in the bracket. Of course, if they really want to get cute about it, they can pair up a bunch of SEC schools against one another, and that's how you keep the field from being flooded with one conference. But no, those top teams are just so good top to bottom. And look, it doesn't mean that the top teams always advance. That is the beauty of regionals and super regionals. We used to run a stat, and I know our research guy, Jeremy Mills, is outstanding. When I get done with this weekend and I'll be getting ready for another year of regionals and super regionals, I'll have a packet. We all will. We'll sound really smart, but the truth of the matter is we had somebody crunching these numbers for us. But the national seeds, for a while there, it was like less than 50% of them were getting to Omaha. So you think of like what a huge advantage that is, but yet a lot of them were losing at home in either the regional or super regional round. So I say that to maintain a little bit of I'm kind of hedging my bets a little bit, in that it's not as predictable as everybody thinks it's going to be. Right. When that bracket does come out, yeah, we know who the best teams are, and we know it's an advantage to play at home, but baseball is so unpredictable, and we always have teams that we think just are not going to lose in these brackets, and then they get bounced out. So maybe this will be another year of those kind of upsets and that kind of madness.
Well, if we tune into the ACC network at 1 o'clock on Saturday, none of us will lose. We all win by listening to Mike Morgan call baseball games, and he'll be doing that. Pool A, Pool D winners, Game 1, Pool B, Pool C, Game 2, 5 o'clock. So, hey, Mike, it's National Wine Day. I hope you have a glass or two tonight.
Oh.
And get ready to go.
I like that.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been on a strict shot of bourbon a night diet for a while, but I can mix in some Pinot Noir tonight.
You got a big day coming up at some point, right? You got to look good for it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to maintain a certain level of acceptance. So, when I hear the obligatory, boy, you outkicked your coverage there, Mike, I'm trying to make it not as obvious as it already appears.
I know. Someone should just start making suits with that written on the back of the jacket. I already know. I can't cover it.
Yeah. Well, I think as dudes, we all need to come together and come up with a new cliche. Like that was really funny 20 years ago.
Right.
And, look, I've been out kicking my coverage for a while on that front. Don't ask me how. I mean, I don't know why any women are interested in me. I consider myself fortunate. Anybody will look at me, but we have to come up. We can come up with a term that expresses the same sentiment. Like, boy, what's she doing with you? We can come up with that, but just come up with a new cliche besides, hey, I'll kick your coverage there. Like at some point that becomes a little stale.
I'll work on it.
Yeah, I'll have a bourbon or two over that and think about it myself. That's a really good point.
You guys will workshop that for the next week. And when I come on next Tuesday, we'll go over potential expressions to replace that rather trite cliche that has been used incessantly for 20. And I've done it too now. I've told my friend, hey, nice job, Barry. Oh yeah, kicked your coverage with that one. And I'm starting to like, this is getting old. Like we need to freshen up our material.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's always for me an older guy that says that he's got a drink in his hand. He kind of winks his eye at you. Yeah, kicked your coverage there, huh, pal? dude.
Right.
Look,
it's the guy with the mail order bride who's like, hey, you kicked your coverage there.
No,
well, so did you. I didn't pay for mine.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, here's the difference.
We just went into a whole other realm, didn't we?
Oh, well.
Yeah, the difference in you and I is, we'll get into that another day, sir. But, well, enjoy wherever you go to eat tonight. Charlotte has plenty of fine restaurants, as you well know. Maybe you're going to be at Ink and Ivy right there next to the ballpark. That'll be a happening spot for a few days.
Well, now, wait a minute now. So the last time I did this event, I was in Raleigh, Durham. So, and I know downtown Charlotte what it used to be when I was doing the Panther preseason games, but this is the first time I've stepped foot in this new ballpark, which everybody raves about. Oh. I don't know all the restaurants. You please give me recommendations. I don't know where the heck I'm going.
Yeah, I'll send you a text. I mean, there are the normal spots up there, but Ink and Ivy's next to the ballpark. It is a neat place. It's a really neat place, actually. That's where we always go when we're up there. I'll send you a text. I'll send you what I know.
Yes, please. You send me that, and when you're in Atlanta, I'll give you a fine dining list, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, don't take me to the place, the hot dogs and shakes place that was out of hot dogs. I don't want to go there.
Oh my goodness! You do two things. You serve milkshakes and hot dogs. I roll up 1 o'clock. There's 3 people in the line. It's not like, the line was 100 deep. 3 people get up there. Yeah, man, sorry, we're out of hot dogs. What? This is all you do. I'm sorry, man. We ran out about an hour ago. And then the guy in line goes, don't feel bad. We tried to order a milkshake last week. They were out of vanilla and chocolate. Like, come on, what are you doing? We need to rethink this business model.
Well, now wait a second. Were you at McDonald's?
No, I was not at McDonald's. There's a place called Frosty Caboose, and it's an actual caboose, like kind of like Williams-Brice Stadium has the cock cards. This was an actual caboose. And they turned it into like a little restaurant. Great concept, and I love the place, but they let me down. I just thought that was an interesting story that I would share with my people on social media.
Well, I'm glad you did, because I did get a laugh out of it, and that's why I brought it back up. Mike, well,
would you go to a Five Guys Burgers and they go, "Hey man, I'm sorry, we're at a Patty's today, but you want some fries?"
Yeah.
That doesn't happen, does it?
No. Yeah. Well, maybe if they only had 4 guys come in, that's possible, I guess.
Well, yeah. Or if the price on beef continues to go up and inflation continues and nobody goes to work, and that actually could happen, I guess. Now in today's America, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, that was my point. McDonald's now has an excuse for their ice cream machine to be broken. I can't tell you how many times it's happened to me. Oh, it's broken. I'm like, well, it's been broken for the last 10 years. Are you going to fix it or no?
So the moral of this story is you still go to McDonald's?
You're right.
Well, I have kids now. I have kids. They love the milkshakes and the chicken nuggets. We got to get a McDonald's.
There's no other options in a fine city like Charleston. You can't do better than McDonald's.
Dog and Duck has awesome chicken tenders that our daughter. I mean, if we're going right, and we go a lot, right, like all the time, and she eats those chicken fingers all the time.
Well, when screaming 2-year-old twins in the back seat, the drive-through is all you can handle. Sometimes you just got to get through it.
All right.
So.
Well, after you save thousands on your new mortgage through Stuart Wingo, you can have somebody deliver the food to your house.
Good point.
You're going to be a high roller at that point. The Bradfords will have some extra spending cash at that point.
That's a good point. I know we've just casually just gone on and talked about this. I'm sure nobody cares about our conversation anymore. But Darren, I do have an idea. We need to have a a play-by-play off between you and Mike while somebody's eating. Let you call somebody's meal.
I think it's like the hot dog eating contest. When I got the Citadel play-by-play job, a good writer who used to work for the Post and Courier, doesn't anymore, Bryce Donovan, he sent me a clip and he said, I don't want you to watch it. I just want you to turn it on the first time, and I want play-by-play of this clip, and I need it sent back to me so I can post it with the story. And it started with sports, and then it was like a guy jumping through a tennis racket, and then I don't even remember everything else that was in it. It was funny.
I think we should do that with both of you. Would you be willing to do that, Mike?
Wow. Let me talk to my people on that and see.
Here we go.
See what kind of violation that could potentially be.
No, God, yeah, I can do it, man. It's going to be $2,500 a month or so, and sign this contract that says I get the deed to your home.
It would be gratis. I just don't. It could be a career ender, and I don't know if I want my career to end of doing play-by-play if somebody's scarfing down sloppy joes.
There are worse ways to go out.
Oh yeah, man. I think you'd be killer.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it. Trust me. I've seen people crash and burn on the air in every way possible. And like I've always told you guys, my goal is to wrap up this career doing what I love and never having to read the 99 card. I told you about the 99 card, haven't I?
The oops, sorry, I made a mistake and I regrettably said something card.
That's the one. Every time we do a broadcast on network television, I get a stack of cards, promos, commercials, whatnot. Tell everybody about the great people at Wando Power Equipment, et cetera, remind people, JB and Goldwater, weekdays, 12 to 2, now 2:08 since I'm rambling on here. But we also have that 99 card, which says, I apologize for offending anybody with what I said. It was not my intention. However, I realize I did wrong, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's always at the bottom of the stack. And you don't want to read that card. You don't want to be the guy or gal that has to read that card.
Not in today's world, you don't. That card will be the last thing you read.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, sometimes it is.
Right.
Just ask Marty Brenneman.
That's exactly what was in my head.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. He read the 99 card and then some.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he did. Ooh, well,
he had to call a home run in the middle of the 99 card, which was beyond awkward.
Yes.
Yeah. God, I forgot about that. Good point. Well, keep the 99 card in your pocket.
Sorry for what I said. 2-2 pitches out to left center field. That's a home run for Castellanos. Anyway, I know what I said was grossly offensive, and I don't know if I'm going to have a job tomorrow. So long, everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, just stop at 98 this weekend, Mike.
I'll try to avoid even getting into the 90s.
Yeah, that would be good. Hey, man, thanks for hanging out with us. We had a good time. 15-10 Louisville in the 8th. So if you get there sometime in the next 6 or 7 hours, that game will probably be in the 9th. And don't park near the ball.
10. My goodness.
I think it's 11 home runs or so today they've hit. 11, somewhere in there. Unbelievable.
Yeah, well, I'm still trying to figure out how this park plays. Again, it's my first time at this ballpark, but I love what they did with it. I remember calling Carolina, North Carolina at the old Fort Mill ballpark, and bless its heart, as we like to say in the South, its time had come and passed.
Yes, it certainly had. This place is special that you're walking in. Charlotte is. There's a reason Carolina fans don't want them to play up there in these neutral site games anymore. There's a reason why Mark Kingston is going to keep taking them to Charlotte. When you walk in, you'll know it's a special place for kids to play. Mike, we'll let you run on that note. Darren's got to get to the store for a beer run. Carolina's going to get going in about 15 minutes. So
there you go. Good luck.
Yeah, we'll see how it all works out. But we'll certainly be watching on Saturday.
So that'll be a challenge.
What's that?
I said Ross is a legit ace for Alabama, so that'll be a challenge.
It will be. Yeah, it'll be certainly a challenge, and we'll see what happens. We'll definitely be watching on Saturday and Sunday, as you call the semifinals and the championship. the Atlantic Coast Conference Baseball Tournament. Mike, thank you for all your time, brother. Can't wait to hear. Maybe you get a walk-off this weekend. We'll put it in our arsenal around here.
That'd be nice. That'd be nice. All right, guys. Be good.
Later. Yes, sir. There you go. Mic'd up with Mike Morgan, powered by Wando Power Equipment. 11 minutes past due, but that's okay. It's Mike. We make room for him when he makes room for us.
Not the first time we've gone way over and way out of bounds with him.
Yeah.
It'll happen again too.
Cheers. Yeah. All right. Carolina coming up 13 minutes. Thanks to Derek Scott, Gene Sapakoff, and Mike Morgan. Tomorrow we'll be joined by J.C. Sherbert, and we will also have somebody from the baseball world to recap what happened today as well. Thanks to Darren Goldwater and all of you.
Thank you, man.
Enjoy the rest of the day of college baseball. What a great time of year. Have fun with it. Have fun with us tomorrow at noon. That's when you'll see us again, right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.